Charges have been filed in the death of a veteran Gary police officer killed in the line of duty. Lake County Sheriff John Bunsich and Lake County Prosecutor Bernard Carter announced this week that 25-year-old Carl Blount has been charged with the murder of Officer Jeffrey Westerfield. Officer Westerfield, a 19-year veteran of the Gary Police Department, was found shot to death in his squad car early on the morning of July 6th. According to court records, police believe Blount was fleeing from the scene of an earlier domestic dispute when he encountered Officer Westerfield.
He was involved in a disturbance just not even an hour before the shooting of the officer. And through videotape, surveillance tape of different businesses, we were able to track his whereabouts leading up to where the officer was found.
What happened can't be changed. We can't go back and make this person not do these things, but it does make me feel a little bit better that these people have put in so much effort for us to get this man behind bars, and if he stays there, he won't be able to hurt anyone else with his senseless violence.
Blount is being held in isolation at the Lake County Jail. He's been held there on outstanding warrants since the shooting as a person of interest. The state of Indiana is firing back after a Lake County Circuit Court special judge ruled that Indiana's right-to-work law is unconstitutional. Attorney General Greg Zeller's office has filed an immediate stay of Judge George Parris's ruling, pending an appeal to the state Supreme Court. The 2012 right-to-work legislation makes it a Class A misdemeanor to require non-union members to pay union dues as a condition of employment. This is the second time the state law has been successfully challenged. In September of last year, another Lake County Superior Court judge, John M. Zeddia, also ruled against the right-to-work law. The appeal of that ruling comes before the Indiana Supreme Court on September 4th. Some of Lake County's smallest residents are getting a leg up on education. Governor Mike Pence announced this week that Lake County is among 5 counties that will participate in the state's pilot pre-kindergarten or pre-K program. The program was established by the 2014 General Assembly and will help 4-year-olds from low-income families attend accredited public, private, or community-based schools providing preschool curricula. The other counties selected to participate are Allen, Marion, Jackson, and Vanderburgh. The pre-K program is scheduled to begin in early 2015. Hoosiers hoping to enroll in the Healthy Indiana Plan, or HIP, are going to have to get in line and wait. The Indiana Family and Social Services Administration, or the FSSA, has halted new enrollments in HIP. The Federal Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services gave the state permission to adjust eligibility for enrollment when it approved Indiana's HIP waiver renewal. The state says current enrollment has reached the point where funding from Indiana's tobacco tax cannot support additional enrollees. The state is continuing to push federal authorities to greenlight HIP expansion with HIP 2.0. Indiana Medicaid Director Joe Moser says that, unlike the current program, HIP 2.0 enrollment would not be solely reliant on the revenue from Indiana's tobacco tax. Some of those reliant on steel companies for employment are fighting for equality in the workplace. Steve Walsh talks to those who've worked steel about the resolution to guarantee protection for all.
In April, former Indiana University Northwest professor Ann Bailey came out with Steel Closets, which looks at gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender steelworkers. The book attracted the attention of activists with United Steelworkers, who are now promoting a resolution at the union's national conference in October. Welcome to everybody here. So we have Ann Bailey here. We have Pete Trinidad, which is Vice President of Local 6787, and then Jan Gentry, who is a retired steelworker. Ann, let's start with you. Briefly, what made you decide to write this book in the first place, looking at gay and lesbian transgender steelworkers?
There wasn't any research out about what it was like to be gay, lesbian, or transgender in the steel mills. So I wanted to get a sense of what that experience was like from the people who were living it. So I talked to 40 of them and collected their stories and put them together in a book.
How tough was that? 40 steelworkers. Took you, what, 3 years?
It took me 5 years. It was very hard to find them because they were trying to be hidden. They're concerned about coming out because they're fearing that they'll be the victim of discrimination or harassment, so they're trying to hide and passing off during the day by paying attention to what they say and how, so they specifically didn't want to be found. So getting them and identifying them was definitely a challenge.
A challenge. And Pete, you is this the first time this issue has really come up? You've passed a resolution at the local level. This is also going to be now going to the national level to your conference in August. Is this the first time really, though, that these issues have come up?
Well, the issues have come up in the past, but this is the first time where we've actually taken it a further step in creating and turning it into a resolution to be proposed to the international at the convention.
And what are you proposing?
We're proposing that it be recognized in all our basic labor agreements, or it be a bargaining position for us to include in our non-discrimination sections of our contracts protection for lesbian, gays, transgender, and bisexual.
Exactly. Jan, you're in this book, and you brought this book to Pete's attention. What were you hoping to accomplish?
Well, I've known Pete for quite a while, and I know he's very open-minded, and I knew if anything that could possibly help change the past of what's been going on in the mill, Pete would definitely be one of them to help initiate it.
And what was it like to be an openly lesbian steelworker?
Well, in the steel mill, I didn't really come out as an openly lesbian.
And why is that?
Fear of harassment and some discrimination, which I've suffered a few anyway because, people just automatically assumed I was a lesbian. But for the most part, local 6787 was a great place to work. And I had no real big problems, just a few minor ones.
So you thought maybe there would be a sympathetic ear if you took that book to Pete.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And we've seen a couple of different locals that are doing it. They're passing resolutions. This is going to be in before the steelworkers in August. What's your reaction to that?
I'm thrilled. I mean, as you started by saying, I used to be an English professor, and English professors don't usually expect to write books that make change in the lives of people. I mean, everything else I've written before is about, Shakespeare or something, and it's wonderful, but it doesn't make people's lives materially better. So that I got the chance to write a book that made a problem, or maybe helped to make a problem better in the lives of actual people, is completely exciting for me.
All right. Well, unfortunately, that's where we're going to have to leave it. I want to thank all three of my guests for being here.
Inclusion and acceptance is a concern for both adults and adolescents. A recent report from the Indiana Youth Institute shows self-esteem goes down when inactivity goes up. Youth development experts are looking to end a recent losing streak in health by championing physical fitness.
Girl. It's an emotion hard to escape when the catalyst comes from within.
After they hear it, like, oh, you're ugly, oh, you just want to fit in, but you can't. Well, they start to believe that.
14-year-old Kaylin Cooper of Hammond says some of her friends struggle with bad body image.
And I think that shouldn't happen at all. It's all about knowing who you are.
She's not the only teen who knows someone uncomfortable in their own skin. A May 2014 report from the Indiana Youth Institute shows Hoosier high school students have higher rates of being obese and overweight than their peers nationally.
The U.S. Surgeon General has said his #1 concern on the health of children is inactivity, is a sedentary lifestyle. And if these data indicate that fewer kids are being physically active, it is a huge cause for concern.
Stan Jurkevich says extracurricular activities and organized sports teams can boost teen body image.
Girls who participate in these team sports are less likely to be depressed, they're less likely to turn to drugs and alcohol, they're even less likely to become moms before marriage.
But a recent Physical Activity Council survey shows a 4% decline in U.S. youths involved in physical activity.
So I like volleyball.
Cooper, a freshman at Theo Bowman Leadership Academy, recently spent time at a youth leadership summit at the Indiana Black Expo. When not spending time with peers, she's playing volleyball, a passion, but also a preventative measure.
It helps me a lot since I want to, try to lose weight. I like to get, very active, and everybody wants me to get active because I don't want to be like, my dad, he passed away of diabetes. And I think that's very important to me because I don't want to have that.
Hosting health fairs is one way the Indiana State Department of Health is getting young Hoosiers moving and reminding parents to participate.
If you're involved with your child, then they'll want to be more apt to do the things you do, going walking together as a family. But experts say youth sports are more than just about winning. They're about catching and holding on to long-term life skills.
You learn about the need to work together. You learn about all the other players on the other team and what that means to compete, but to compete with sportsmanship. Obviously, the ruling of a referee is no different than maybe a decision a teacher gives you, or in your adult years, what a boss is going to be.
It made me stronger in what I did, with everything I did, such as schoolwork. It made me work harder in my schoolwork, as well as physical fitness and stuff like that.
17-year-old Herschel Thompson of Geary says running track for 2 years built mental and physical endurance.
Like you're on a track and you come to the first curve, it's like, man, you can't do this, but then you keep going. It was able to tell me, hey, you can go through anything, you can persevere through the things, your challenges and such like that.
Experts also say activities may not always be as costly as they seem.
A lot of these youth sports leagues are required to allow kids to play for free. Maybe sometimes they ask some volunteer time from the parents or some other ways that the family can participate, but don't let that fee scare you away.
Participating in physical activities, sport or not, is a win regardless for young people.
Take advantage of the opportunities that are out in the community. Marching band and show choir and robotics and math, the arts and the sciences. So many extracurriculars are good for kids.
There you go. Good job.
The Youth Institute adds teens involved in sports like Cooper are more likely to complete more years of formal education. Well, from physical fitness to education, Sarah Holz finds out how some of the region's youngest residents are aiming to be more well-rounded before school starts.
Thanks, Hillary. The summer months offer children and families a chance to unwind and enjoy time together. But education research shows that during their time away from the classroom, kids can lose as much as 1 to 3 months of progress in reading and math skills. Local schools and organizations host a variety of programs designed to help children avoid the summer brain drain. We recently visited a day camp at Valparaiso University that offers to immerse children in an educational and cultural experience like no other.
For many Americans, summer camp brings to mind visions of being outdoors, creating arts and crafts, singing songs, and eating fun foods. For a group of students in Valparaiso, camp includes all these things, but with a very worldly perspective.
Yang is lamb, and then zhu, pork. Anything else? Two, yes. Rabbit. Niu is beef.
The Chinese Immersion Summer Camp at Valparaiso University brings together students from across the region to study beginning and intermediate Mandarin Chinese.
We're open to third grade students and up to all the adults.
The program, founded 3 years ago, teaches much more than language. Instructor Chen Ji Zhang, or Bryce to his students, says it's a 2-week journey into Chinese culture.
We did a lot of cultural activities, like we let the students do Chinese calligraphy, like to write the Chinese character in the brush, with the brush and ink. And then we also invite some guest teacher, to have the students learn how to paint, Chinese style painting. Yeah, and then we also did some paper cutting, paper folding, the Chinese traditional way.
Camper Anna Beischer is a recent graduate of Valparaiso High School who plans to major in international studies in college next fall.
It's just something that we're not really taught much about, East Asian culture, and so I thought it was really interesting because I didn't know anything about it. It's so different from English, It's so much fun to learn the characters and what they mean, and then you can start to recognize them, and then you feel really smart because you can read that, and so it's neat.
Maya Nickerson, a student from New Prairie High School in St. Joseph County, came to camp with over 2 years of Mandarin studies under her belt.
With my school, I went to China in 2011, and then about a year later, I realized I really liked it and I wanted to study it. So then when I was in 8th grade, I started studying it.
On this day, campers are learning to make traditional Chinese dumplings, led by Jimin Lin, chair of the university's Chinese and Japanese Studies program and founder of the camp.
I think learning language is not just sitting in the classroom. You try to interact, you try to learn the culture. I think language is a life experience, so you wanted to integrate classroom learning with games, practices Tai Chi and all kinds of things. That's because that's the totality of that experience is what makes languages stick in the minds of the kids. Most schools here don't offer Chinese, although we have been trying to expand the language program. We're about more than a dozen schools in Northwest Indiana offer Chinese, but primarily in high schools. So we wanted to have the program available for kids from early on.
Professor Lin is also working to bring more Asian studies opportunities to local schools. In the meantime, he says summer camp is a great place to get children excited about the world outside of Indiana.
I think this is an opportunity for the kids to not really to master language, but to know what the foreign language is about, have fun, and develop the interest. That's the primary goal for this program.
Not every school is offering Chinese, and then the kids are so busy during the school year. So for the summer, they will have like time, and the parents could take them, in the morning to the camp, and they can pick them up after the camp is done every day. So I think it's perfect timing to do it in the summer.
Chinese is really awesome, and give it a chance.
Well, children aren't the only ones who can benefit from a unique cultural experience this summer. Up next, John Kane has details of an artistic gathering that's been a summer tradition for more than a half century in this week's Eye on the Arts.
Hi, joining me for this edition of Eye on the Arts is Marcia Casasa, a volunteer with the Chesterton Art Fair, the famous Chesterton Art Fair.
Yes.
It's always a big favorite in these parts every summer.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, how many years is this now?
This is going to be our 56th year.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember when Judy or somebody promoted it the 50th.
Yeah.
Wasn't
yeah,
all that long
yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
So year after year, and every year you have little changes and new things. And
oh yeah.
So what's on the horizon this year?
Well, this year we have 95 artists juried in so far, and we've always got to wait for a couple last minute people. And of those 95 artists, there's 26 new artists who have never participated in our fair before.
Oh, that's incredible.
And we have artists from every corner of the United States this year. So it's going to be interesting.
Well, how was it that the fair came about to start with?
That I can't tell you exactly. I know it started down the street from the gallery at Railroad Park, and it was just a bunch of local artists that wanted to get together, and the Art Association with the Art Gallery decided that, okay, fine, we'll do something, and that's how it got going, and it kept progressing and progressing and getting bigger and bigger. So they finally decided to move it over to Hawthorne Park in Porter, which is a beautiful park. They've got like mild rolling hills, a lot of open spaces, beautiful oak trees. It's a good location.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
I have a painting, a watercolor by Hazel Hanel called At the Carnival, and she told me that it was a painting of the fair before the art fair, like maybe the year before the art fair or something. And what do you have a favorite among the artists who, the type of artists? Or?
I like all the artists, but there's a gentleman I'm going to seek out this year. He is a wood carver. And I walked in on the middle of them jurying in artist, and his work was up on the screen. He carves insects, fish, animals, and God knows what all. Very detailed, very realistic.
That'll be fun.
Wait a minute.
I don't have a minute.
The only difference between him is all of his figurines are at least 2 to 3 feet, or 2 to 3 feet
big.
Large, and they're all smiling.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I'm
well,
like,
fun.
yeah, I'm like, that's cool.
Well, that sounds like something to look forward to.
It is.
Well, thank you, Marcia, for being here to tell us about the fair. Good luck with it.
You're welcome.
And thank you for watching. We'll be back again next week with another edition of Eye on the Arts.
Eye on the Arts is made possible in part by South Shore Arts, the Indiana Arts Commission, and the National Endowment for the Arts, a federal agency.
If you're looking for something to do that will satisfy your desire to commune with nature and give your muscles a really good workout as well, you may want to head out to the Indiana Dunes State Park. We got to challenge ourselves in the great outdoors on this week's Jump in the Lake.
Wait for me! Look at that, none of them can wait for us. Oh my
Lorelei Weimer is Director of Indiana Dunes Tourism, and we're here at the Indiana Dunes State Park taking the 3 Dune Challenge. Lorelei, the 3 Dune Challenge is pretty new to the park, isn't it?
You know, it is. What we're doing is Trail 8's been here forever, but Trail 8 has the 3 tallest dunes in the state park, and what we wanted to do is take Trail 8 and rebrand it into the 3 Dune Challenge.
Well, Trail 8 is so generic, you don't really understand what you're in for. I mean, Indiana's pretty flat, and what we have here are basically full mountains.
They are, and they're not small dunes. I mean, this is definitely a challenge, and you're going to definitely get a workout, and you're going to feel those dunes. So we wanted to take something that's existed, rebrand it, and really get people excited locally as well as visitors to really get on these trails and try out this challenge.
Wow, that'd be rough. This is very easy to read. I mean, I'm obviously on the right trail.
Well, it's really important when you send people on trails that they're well marked, and you have to understand there's a lot of trails out here, and they're crossing each other. So it's important that when people are coming out here that they know it's going to be well marked. We're going to get you to the top of the tallest dunes, and then we're going to get you back.
Once you hit the dunes, it's one right after another, but they're not the same experience, are they?
They're not, and what's neat about them is they are in order. So Mount Jackson is the shortest, Mount Holden is the second shortest, and then Mount Tom. Mount Holden has much more of an incline, and I think it's the most challenging, and then Mount Tom actually has steps.
Oh,
so
wow.
This is it, you made it.
Wow, it's just beautiful up here.
So there's a lot to offer, and the thing that we want to impress upon is our local residents. We want them to be excited about what we have in our backyard. We want them to get out here, do the same thing, so when your friends and family come into town, we want you to explore your backyard before taking them to the Chicagos and other areas. Bring them out here so they can see why we're here and why we're living here and why we're choosing this to, as a place to live.
Well, because there's lots to see and do in Northwest Indiana.
Exactly.
Love the 3 Dune Challenge. It is pretty strenuous.
Yeah, it looked like.
But you know, you can take it at your own pace. There's some people who just blast through that thing, and then there's others like me that sort of plod up the mountains. But I really enjoyed it. It was wonderful, and it's a great workout and a great way to explore the dunes.
Scenic view too.
Oh, many, many. So what are we working on for next week?
Well, I'm going to be catching up with an organization called Pilots for Paws that helps to rescue animals from shelters all across the country that are in danger of being put to sleep, and they use local pilots to bring them to shelters that can help them find new homes, and it's a really great cause and a great group of volunteers that really do this work.
Oh, so. I love that. And Hillary, what are you working on?
Well, it also has to do with the community and giving back. I'm going to be speaking to some local health experts about food deserts and where food is scarce in the region, where it should be plentiful, and how they're going to address that for the residents in those communities.
It's a big issue in a lot of places because there are parts of the community where getting fresh fruits and vegetables and things is very challenging.
It's so true. Even though we have, farmers and local ways to grow food, it's still hard to get it in some communities nearby.
And if you have an idea for a story that you'd like us to address or something that we can work on, go ahead and drop us a line. You can reach us on TV feedback at lakeshorepublicmedia.org.
Yeah, we do also want to hear from you on Facebook, Twitter. We love to check our social media and see comments and suggestions from our followers. So let us know what you're thinking and any ideas you might have. So.
Thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you back here next week on Lakeshore Report.